we have a full council tonight. Good evening, everybody in the audience. Okay, let me first introduce Karen Rupp to everyone. Karen is with the firm, I don't know the name.
Brendan McKenna.
Brendan McKenna, and blah, 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 and Shay. And Karen will be providing legal assistance to the town of North Beach going forward. Karen, we're very happy to, very sad about the circumstances. None of us can imagine doing the business of North Beach without John Shay, who's been returning here before my time. I guess Randy, maybe he came on when you were in office. He came about 1990. You were.
Well, I was earlier than that because you were the commissioner at that time. The first thing you had to handle was going to be college. It was when you enjoy coach a bunch of our deputies. They just got done, or police officers, they just got done.
Anyway, it pushes 3 decades that John has been our attorney. I've been to see John twice, most recently was yesterday, and I can report that he's very thin. He's, of course, in bed, very thin, and he's just sipping some liquids. He's not eating. But he's still, when you get there and he's awake, he's alert and can discuss the history of North Beach. I spent about half an hour with him yesterday. He gets a little tired and his thoughts get a little jumbled. That happens to all of us sometimes. But he's very much, he's spending his time very gracefully, and the family likewise. Very welcoming when I get there, and just couldn't be kinder. So, the Lord willing, I'll visit him again next week, and as long as I can. That's about where that stands. Karen, it's nice to have you, and we look forward to working with you as we go forward. Okay, I'll open this evening with a public hearing as advertised for the proposed FY18 budget and the adjustments that need to be made for the fiscal year that we're in the last month of it right now. We introduced last month the ordinance to adopt these budgets, and we'll have to act on these next week. That'll be one of the 2 or 3 items on the agenda. And don't forget, everyone, that at the end of the meeting next week, we're going to have a retirement reception for John Hoffman, who has announced his retirement. So please make room in your schedule to stay a little while after the meeting as we review John's participation, which, while not quite as long as John Shay's, can be measured in terms of decades here anyway. So, Joanne, I'll ask you to go ahead and highlight the changes and the points in the budget that we feel are pertinent.
Okay. So let's just review this package here that you have. The 2017 North Beach tax rate is currently at 0.6325 for assessed $100 value. The FY18 proposed tax rate follows the constant yield rate of 0.6329 for $100 of value. Calvert County granted the town differential of 0.336, lowering the county tax rate for North Beach to 0.616 to recognize the services provided by the town. North Beach's net assessable base for July 1, 2017 was $240 million.
And I think we should mention, Joe, that even though the rate went up 4/10,000th of 1 cent, that it does equate to the constant yield rate.
That's correct.
The town will not be generating any more revenue in FY18 from the sources of income than it did in the year we're in right now.
Okay, the next page, page 2, it gives a little idea, explains what's in your special assessment, and it's your annual trash fee, your sewer benefit fee, and your water benefit fee. And I took a little excerpt out of the county tax bill to show you where you would see that information on your tax bill. With the special assessment, which includes your trash rate will stay the same at $2.95 per household. It remains the same as it was in FY17. The annual fee pays for 2 weekly trash pickups and weekly recycling. The annual fee also includes bulk pickup once a month and 2 community cleanup events. Any schedules are listed on the town of North Beach website if you would like to print them out or possibly put them on your refrigerator. The following page just gives a few of the highlights from the revenue section of the budget. And the local income tax revenue, you'll see a slight reduction there. Reduction in gaming revenue, we took that into consideration because of the work on the bridge in Chesapeake Beach, just in case it affects some of that revenue stream, just to be cautious. And then beach umbrella and chair rentals revenue increased due to the rate increases, which you did in, was it April? For the March or April, which had not been done for quite a while. So that's the revenue highlights on page 4. On page 5 is the administrative expenses. Admin salaries and wages was reduced by $7,500. All wages include a 2% COLA raise, increase to code enforcement wages for additional part-time hours, an increase to licensed office supplies to include new software, $7,850 for the initial year, and then maintenance and support for the following years is at $4,500 per year. This is a line item, includes 2 iPads, uniforms, and miscellaneous supplies for our code enforcement office.
That fourth item is all relates to requests from Rick. Is that right, Rick?
Yeah.
For code enforcement.
It also includes a vehicle purchase for code enforcement at $28,642, which is going to be an electric or a hybrid vehicle, fuel efficient, energy efficient vehicle. And then increases to the town hall operations for maintenance, phone, Xerox, Comcast, business internet, those items. The following page is the section for professional and general services of the budget. Engineering zoning, that's the label of the line item, but it is zoning that the code enforcement officer will be covering with John's absence. We added an intern cost of $1,000 to participate in the Chesapeake Conservation Corps program. We've received 4 resumes through that program.
That's grant funded.
That is grant funded. I think it's up to, the maximum is $20,000 for the intern. And the Chesapeake Corps, they actually have a say in our selection. We kind of narrow it down, but they actually have the final say. Ground rent parking increase for municipal lot across from the Sally Donaldson Welcome Center. That's a lot that we rent from Mr. Russo. And then increased grounds and maintenance for public areas to cover park maintenance, new trash can lids and replacements. The next section of the budget is community waterfront development. In that section, we reduced wedding fixed assets to 0. We increased the farmer's market expense minimally. We increased July 4th celebrations expense. Then we increased the Dragon Boat races. There is one new item in that section that was added, and that's for the American Balloon that we're participating in annually now. The next section is waterfront operations. The Welcome Center fixed assets is reduced from 11,000 in FY17 to 7,000 in FY18. And the beach dredge item was reduced to 0. This is a large capital item now under capital projects. The next section is benefit expense and general liability insurance. There's increases to Social Security and Medicare to compensate for the COLA rates, and increases to annual retirement contribution also related to COLA increases. General liability and property insurance, there has no change. The next section of the budget is public safety and public works department. Public safety increase is related to the two-step increases that you agreed to within FY17 and the COLA raises for the deputies as a whole. Public works salary is increased to include 2% COLA. Street signs was reduced from 10,500 to 7,500. Street and sidewalk maintenance was increased from 20,000 to 33,000 for a special project. I believe that's Chestnut Avenue is going to be a large stormwater project, part of that. And then added a new expense item, overhead tree maintenance. Donnie requested $12,500 annually to address low-hanging branches. And then increase of $32,500 for a new snowplow slash vehicle to address snow removal. The next section is the general debt service of the budget. There's a new capital improvement bond that we just finished and closed on the 25th. That new capital improvement bond is a $133,000 annual payment. We reduced expenses in the debt service line item by paying off SunTrust's obligation number 18, which was for a retirement annuity that was initiated back when Betty Friesland and Thelma and Carol Chambers retired. Remember that, right? And we reduced expenses by prepaying the Bayside Boys and Girls Club bond that we have through PNC.
But those three were all considered when we did our bond discussions.
That's correct. Okay, we have a list of the capital projects and the revenue sources for those projects, which most of it has already been through. But I'd like to get to the expense portion. That gives you a little more detail on the project. Most of this is covered under the streetscape bond that you just did on the 25th of May. So you're moving right along. The Living Shoreline, I believe, is almost complete, but there is going to be, you see the stormwater projects, that $45,000 that's in this year, that's part of the stormwater plan for when that's completed. John and Donnie are working on that. So that's basically all the projects that we have coming up. The last item is the economic development budget, and that includes advertisement and promotional items, which we do. And then Mosca, there's a minimal expense item for Mosca, but it's mainly for replacement items of our existing inventory. And then we have Christmas setup, and there's no consultant fees this year yet. And then seasonal code enforcement is basically your EDC budget. So that covers that. And we'll get to the end of the general fund budget. It's just a little comparison, and most of you are already aware. We're not raising taxes. I show you the constant yield that we're staying with the constant yield. And we have consistently. It may be within a few pennies, but it's never gone over the constant yield rate. So that's basically your final page for the general fund. And then we move on to the fun part, the water and sewer. For those of you who don't know, water benefit fees I mentioned earlier, these are debt service fees for the utility funds. And there's a couple things you should know. The water system bond is for construction of the system. It was restructured in 2012 to take advantage of the low interest rates. The town saved $229,000 in the first 5 years by restructuring the water system bond. After the initial 5 years, the bond payment will increase from $55,000 to $101,000 in FY18. That's page 17 of your packet. The next page tells you a little bit about sewer benefit fees. There's two, and an MDE water quality shellfish holding tank was one of the items on your benefit fees. The annual debt service for that is $83,968 per year, and that loan matures in 2022. The second bond is MDE water quality, and that's for the enhanced nutrient removal. And that's mandated by the Environmental Protection Agency in the state of Maryland for every wastewater treatment plant feeding directly into the Chesapeake Bay or tributaries. And the debt service payment on that is $120,000 per year until it matures in 2036. Page 19 is just a comparison of the benefit fees over the years, so you can see that they have been conservative, but this year in FY18 you will see a raise in those fees. The water benefit fee actually goes down by $8.10. That goes to $102 from $110 that you're at now. And then the sewer benefit fee goes up from $221 to $250. That's a $28 increase. So overall, your benefit fees between the two, water and sewer, are increasing by $20.70 a year. The next page is page 20. And it just basically tells you that 2007, the rate structure was adopted, and at that time, the flush tax was $7.50, which made your minimum quarterly bill $140.70 for 10,000 gallons. Then in FY 2012, there was no increases to the rates, but the MDE flush tax doubled, making your quarterly bill $148.20 per quarter. And that's what it is now in FY 17, $148.20 per quarter for 10,000 gallons. The new structure is proposed gives the current water and sewer rates. The minimum will stay the same. It's the $42.20 for 10,000 gallons for water, and it's the $91 for sewer for 10,000 gallons. So that will remain the same. The structure, however, on the tier structure will change, and that is changing to allow for, hopefully, promote conservation. And the way that works now is you have, for water, there's $2 for the next 11 to 25,000 gallons, and then for 26 to 50,000, it's $1.50 for every 1,000 gallons, and then for anything over 50,000 gallons, it's $1. The new rate structure would make it $2.50 for the next 25,000 gallons. It would, for the up to the next 50, it would make it $3 per 1,000 gallons, and then for over 50,000 gallons, it would be $3.50 for water. The sewer is currently at $2.80 for the next 25. For the next 50, it's $2.07 per 1,000. And then for over 50,000 gallons, it's $1.39 per 1,000. The new rate structure would be $3.30 for the next 25. For the next 50, it would be $4.15. And for anything over 50,000 gallons, it would be $4.64 for the new rate structure. And that would be effective in, if adopted, would be effective in FY18. You would first see those rates reflected in your October bill.
These are the rates we agreed to last week.
Yes, excuse me.
Having the authority only to change these rates on an annual basis.
Yes, what was presented was a concept plan, and then you have effectively the first year change the rate.
All right, thank you, Joanne.
Real quick, if I can just- Paul? So on page 19,
Mm-hmm.
you show the sewer benefit fee going up by 28.80.
Yes,
Back in April, the presentation had it going down by $4.20. I was curious what changed.
it did. What changed was, under the sewer benefit fee, in order to keep the capital costs, the quarterly costs down, I was able to capture, and I went back and looked at the definition, debt service and capital costs. So I included, instead of putting those capital costs in my quarterly bill, I put them in the debt service annually.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Joe. This is a public hearing. Are there any questions from the public about the proposed budget?
I was told to go on the website. Is this what was on your website page?
It's not exact, it's, all this information is there,
Yeah.
just like this, but it's two things. You have the general fund, exactly like you have here, and then you also have the water and sewer pages along with the new rates on a second piece. But it's all the same that's here.
This is very good, very detailed, but it still is foreign to me to try to understand it. So, can you give an example of a regular bill and how much it's going to go up? That's what I tried to find out the other day.
Yeah, Paul did that for us.
Okay, great.
So just,
Paul, why don't you,
do we have to let you project that by any chance? or-
Let me see what I can,
While you're looking at that, so a couple of, so you got the.
how much do you all use? Do you have any idea?
I don't know, I just want to know what a regular bill is.
Is your bill the normal, what is our normal bill? Is it usually 148?
No, mine's like 190, 200.
She's usually about the same as I am, which is about 20,000 gallons a quarter, give or take, each side of that.
So in that case, your bill will go up $10 per quarter.
That's really all I wanted to know.
If you're using 20,000 gallons of water, it goes up $10 a quart.
Is that water and sewer combined?
Yes.
is that okay?
Y'all have this sheet?
I think so.
Paul.
That's helpful, that's helpful. because you can-
I had a lot of help.
Bill normally
I had a
is.
lot of help.
And then maybe we can just post this online as well.
I will.
Okay.
That's part of our education.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your Honor, Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
could I just say that I think this is a very good proposal of increases because it will encourage people to conserve water. And previously, there was no incentive.
The incentive was to use more water.
Exactly.
Right, it was reversed.
So I think this is very good.
Thank you. Council, have any more questions? Okay, well, we'll close the public hearing. We'll adopt the ordinance that was introduced last month, and thank you, Joanne, for an excellent job.
Thank you all for all your help.
Okay. Because we are making a change, I just put as the first item on the work session agenda, proposed water and sewer rates. I don't know that we need to go over it again. Basically, but it is an important change because we've not done this for 10 years. We have two objectives: to incentivize the water conservation and to eventually arrive at the end of this 5-year proposed plan, which will be the responsibility of the next administration, to see that everyone pays the same for a gallon of water, which is not the way it works under the tier structure. So we will be eliminating, the first 10,000, the next 15, the next 25. That will go away by the end of that 5-year period. Yes. And the more you use, the more you pay. Okay, budget discussion. John, let's talk about, this is a zoning ordinance that's mandatory, mandated by the Critical Area Commission. If we're to do any construction, and we're proposing to build a small covered pavilion on the T section of the pier, which I think is very important to promote the perception that this is a venue for weddings and other functions as well. When you look out there now, you know, it's beautiful, but it doesn't say you can rent this space from the town of North Beach. So we have designed, you all have seen the plans, but that cannot be built. First of all, we couldn't build it without the permission of the Baywalk Association, which we received about a year ago. But we also can't do it because of this issue with the critical area. So John, tell us why we're doing this.
Well, you know, the old proverbial killing two birds with one stone, that's really what we're doing here. Last spring, the town enacted a new zoning ordinance that included a rewrite of all the critical area requirements in zoning. The template we used for the ordinance that we have in place since last May was a template given us by critical areas, and subsequently they reviewed what we wrote and said, my gosh, we've changed things in the template, and we would like you to re-adopt your critical area zoning to have the new items that are in the new template. And it turns out one of the items is the allowance to build non-water dependent structures on piers up to 1,000 square feet, which once that's in our code, MDE then will accept and give us a permit, because since it's over tidal waters, we have to get an MDE tidal wetlands type license to be able to do that. So by adopting the new zoning ordinance, we both get the provision that we need in our code to build a wedding pavilion on the pier. Plus, we also ensure that all our critical area codes meet all the current standards. You know, it goes without saying, if the state changes the critical area law, and then we're under obligation to change our codes to be in step with whatever the current law is. But by adopting the new template they've given us, and we'll have a prepared copy available to all the council members before the next meeting. We'll make sure we're in total compliance with the critical area program.
Thank you, John. So this will be an ordinance that we can introduce next week.
Yeah, and Kelly's working on formatting that whole document, so it's,
You say Karen is?
No, Kelly in our office.
Oh, okay, I thought you said Kelly. Okay, so we'll look, that'll be an agenda item next month, the introduction of that ordinance for adoption in July. Okay, thank you, John.
So, John, real quick.
No, I'm sorry, no, please, questions.
Is this something, since we're going to be adding additional properties, I guess, that are going to be in this critical area, should we be notifying the property owners that this is occurring? Something that we can comment and things like this? It sounds to me, I'm not sure, an expert.
Through this whole process, there is, and we've talked about it before, there is a change in the critical area lines. There's a change in the critical area lines where there's two slivers west of, pretty much west of Frederick Avenue. One area is between about 7th and 8th. Another area is in the southern part, in the vicinity of 2nd Street, 1st and 2nd Street. There are two, do we have the pointer?
Yeah.
My house goes from half, it's like my backyard, to my full yard. My front yard.
But I guess my point is, should we be notifying these folks that this is occurring? Because it sounds like this is gonna restrict what they do as far as future building and stuff like that possibly on these properties.
We will post, normally when we do a comprehensive change like this, to all the critical area lines, historically, we have not notified individual property owners because it's being done comprehensively.
Do you know how many homeowners are impacted on this?
Well,
Maybe one.
the area is, one area is, it's between this line and that line. And the area that is involved is that area. And I'll say there are, most the infrastructure, buildings in these areas is already, the houses are already in place. There's no real empty or development lots that really be impacted by this, this change. The other area is, that's the Erie Avenue, Greenwood Avenue, that is 6th Street, this is 8th Street here, this area here. Again, most of these areas are already developed, so this won't have any impact on properties where there's already structures on.
What if this one wants to add a deck?
Add a deck? No,
Does that affect it?
If they can't build it into the critical area.
That's what I'm saying, so it does affect their properties.
If they add a deck, yes, they would.
So, I mean,
That's what I'm saying, the question.
I mean, yeah, we should, right, I mean, if I have a piece of property and I don't know about this and I go to apply to build a deck and then you tell me, well, it just changed this
The
year.
only change in the deck requirements in critical areas is you gotta use open boards and you gotta have free draining gravel underneath the deck.
All right, so what you're saying is there's gonna be no restrictions on a homeowner in these
To
areas?
build a deck,
Or
no.
no, any restrictions?
No, it's just the quality of the construction would have to be, to have openings in the board so rainwater could go
What if
through
they
the
want to build a
deck.
shed
And
or an addition or a shed?
Maybe it would be rather than
No, it wouldn't
notifying
affect-
individuals.
No, sheds are below, like 100 square foot threshold and would not affect shed construction.
How about the addition of a wing?
If you're gonna build it,
Yeah,
you
1,000 square feet per house.
I don't know if there's room to do that.
want to expand your house.
Could you expand your house with a room, for instance?
No, it won't affect it.
And would it, if they're be encroaching into the critical area? They could build into the critical area?
You can build in the critical area, there's no limitation on the amount of impervious surface that you can have on a lot. Here, the town is in the IDA, in some of the, in other areas that are less intensely developed, there is no restriction on the amount of impervious that you can have on a lot in the intensely developed area. So if someone adds an addition, they will not be limited under the critical area zoning to the size of that addition. Zoning would control the size of the addition because of setbacks, and we do have a maximum building coverage in our underlying zoning. So no one would be prohibited from doing any kind of expansion or deck because of the change to having a property into.
They're all still in the IDA.
Because we're all in the intensely developed area.
Yeah,
No impact.
yeah, that's what I was saying, because we went back, went through this when we adopted critical areas many years ago, 30. And that was, the entire town at that time was in the intensely developed
Yes, right.
category, so.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess we could always let people know, oh, there's been a change in the critical area map, or if you have questions, rather than, we want to let people know that there's been a change to the map, or have something about this on the website. If people have questions about it.
John, just to satisfy the council, can we get the addresses of the residential
Yeah, we will.
dwellings in those two areas?
Yeah, we will, we will develop a list of the properties in those two areas and send out and get addresses off the land records and send a form letter to them all.
Stacy, you don't see to that. It's probably not confusing more than anything else.
Right, and maybe just have that people not be, you're not impacted, but if you have questions,
No, we,
Yeah.
sure.
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, I guess I'm not saying it's something we should do, it's going to confuse people, but it's something that is actually going to impact them.
It doesn't sound like it is, but it's not.
So maybe we don't need to send a form letter again, maybe we just.
It wouldn't hurt to make it all aware.
Right.
That's what I was saying, maybe we just send out, hey, there's been, change to the local area, send out.
And in the letter, you can tell them that there are no additional restrictions.
Sure.
Okay?
Sure.
Will you compose that letter?
You know, every day we approve decks and building expansions in the critical area, and without preventing people from doing what they really want to do.
Okay. Thank you, John. Okay, let's go on to the next item, which is a discussion about the nature of the crosswalks that we're going to install on the newly resurfaced Chesapeake Avenue. Don, you have, I think, a memo for the council that identifies what's involved with the crosswalk that we considered and then as well, an option to pretty much do what was there before.
Right, yes, sir, that's correct. We had two presentations by our crosswalk XD type pattern. That's your first option there. They came down, they gave you all the pluses and minuses, kind of went over that prior pretty thoroughly. If you have any more questions, please feel free to ask. But what I did, the mayor asked me to break it out, and these numbers are budget numbers, so they're not, we still have to put it out to bid, because it's not a firm number yet, but we put the square footage of crosswalks. We're estimating at $15 a square foot. We kind of shop around and got that price for the XD pattern. And then what you see, the second is white borders, which the gentleman that came into the presentation, that's a thermoplastic, and that actually makes it an official crosswalk. And I don't know if Karen, she's first discussion about this, but whether it's legally, you have to have that. The state highway kind of requires that thermoplastic and not fluorescent type white to make it an official crosswalk now. So that's what that 1,100 linear feet and $9 a foot, that's what that's kind of talking about with white bars. And also, if you remember in the presentation, the gentleman did say a couple times that those white bars actually help protect the brick pattern because snow plows will hit that curve. That's a little higher, a little rougher, so then it'll kind of glide over the crossbar. That's what he's saying in his information. The second option we have here is for putting brick pattern like we had currently, or existing before we did the road raising and paving. And that's the brick, gentleman come down, he has to stamp that pattern into the asphalt. That would require traffic. What happened there, you have just a $6 a square foot, $39,000 just to do the imprint. And that's nothing else, imprint itself. I also added some traffic, $2,000, and that's for traffic control. We were estimating that it would do like 4 intersections a day probably with that type process. So that would have to be a daytime, close down one lane of the road at least, do half the road at a time at each intersection, jump around, and hopefully you get 4 of them done in a day. So they came up with a week of traffic control. That's where the $2,000 is. And then also, DPW after that, Public Works would come in and we would do the painting like we've always did before. And I kind of had 3 days labor there, and that also has some traffic in it. And that's 3 good days if we're lucky without traffic. The last couple of years we considered doing it at night just because of the amount of traffic. We'll just be having one day. And what the problem is, you have to paint it, let it sit for 30 minutes at least to dry before you put another coat on. And if you don't put 2 coats on, then we noticed we tried this 1 coat before the budget, but it wears off within 3 months before the summer's even over. Have to come back. So we had to paint 1 coat, kind of leave all our traffic stuff set up, come back to another coat, once it dries for 30 minutes. That's, it takes 3 good days, we probably actually take another day. 4
And
days.
that's probably every year.
That's at least every year, with the amount of traffic we had last year, we almost needed to do it in the fall, make it look good for our fall events, actually, but we didn't, but, if we do it early in May, by Labor Day, they're pretty much need to be done, we want to look good for the fall and winter. And then in that, I also included $9 a square foot, because I think either way we go, I think we should do the thermoplastic white borders regardless of whichever. Instead of paint them white, I think, we make it look good and last,
You say the state requires that.
and the state requires that as far as, to
You're
make
saying
it legal
thermoplastic
crosswalk.
versus paint.
Right, and that makes it a legal, crosswalk as far as, state highway. This $54,000, that would be for the first year. What I didn't include on the sheet, and I should have, but all you have to do is say, we estimated up top there, we talked to the guys that came down, 6 to 10 years for the, XD pad, like they gave you the dip pad. So if you had 6 years of paying for $4,000 a year, you'd add 24,000 onto 54, which would bring you like $78,900 for a 6-year time period. So that kind of gives you a more fair comparison to the 106,000, say 107 roughly, for the XD pad that they did. And we didn't have to do anything at all for 6 years, once they're done.
Obviously, you just need to do the painting.
No,
Where did you just get that extra 24, the 6
If we
times 4,
pay
right?
them, if Public Works
Yeah,
pays
yeah.
them every year with the old style,
Right.
thing, we'll be like 4,000 a year, just for a paint job, freshen it up. So if you do that for 6 years, that would give you 24,000 to add to the second option. Whereas if
So
you
like
went with the
80,000.
first option, the pictures you saw on that, and the shows were like 10, some over 10 plus years, some over 6 years. So. And we did get so just so y'all know, I don't know if he said it in the meeting or not, but after we left, the last time the gentleman was here from, both one from Connecticut and one from Delaware, who represent this product and also applied the product. We got them extended warranty to a 3-year warranty for labor and workmanship. And the product, both of them extended a typical 1-year warranty for 3 years.
I can't remember, did you actually talk to other towns
We did
personally?
talk to Laurel, and then we had some pictures from there, and then Paul went up, and that was some of the older ones, and we had some issues, and that's what Paul kind of brought up. Some of them had failed, and I think they were like 6 to 8 years, or, the gentleman that was here gave us those because they were the longest in our area that had been down. And there were some chunks missing out of those. The pictures you saw, good.
I was just wondering what people actually said,
Well, the
about-
engineer, they both of them liked it. Every time I talked to an engineer, they liked the product. And a lot of it was because once they put it down, in 6 years, you have to worry about trying to do something that intersects with the heavy traffic there. And then, Christy Fang was the girl of Laurel, that was the town engineer. Public Works up there, they have like a town engineer just for the public works section. She was the one I talked to up there, and she said she liked the product. And then Paul Woodburn was here, who's kind of meeting with Johnny and thinking, he's had experience with the product. He also said he would recommend that he liked the product. Kind of almost called him back just to get his input, but if you need to email him, Stacey has an email. He's familiar with the project with it before through Dyer and they were back with it. The guy in DC, he's not an American, I don't remember, but he was also up there at Connecticut Avenue. We have a street that's 100,000 dollars, and then he's pretty happy with it, held pretty well.
So the one thing you can't, you just have to put a value on, it's not a dollar per se, but it's
I
just
think the
the
main thing to look at here
inconvenience
is-
of doing it, painting every year.
Well, one thing
It's
too
not
is-
traffic and,
I think the thing to look at here is, we did the whole streetscape project for curb appeal. And, this is just me talking, but I think this would kind of top off and make it look good. The painting, the problem we had in the past, and then, but it is a lot of money. The problem with the painting is you get that brick stamped into the asphalt. You get maybe 3/8 or 1/4 inch groove in there. After 2-3 years of painting, that paint kind of fills into the grooves. So kind of your brick pad kind of disappears. And then, you're rolling the paint on the roller, so you can't really get it out of the cracks. And after, I don't know, I've been here almost 10 years, I guess. But some of those intersections are pretty much smoothed out, so you couldn't even see the brick pad, especially like the second where the fast stop is. And that's one thing with the permanent, the XD pattern, that wouldn't happen because you don't have to maintain. You can power wash the first option. If they do dirty, they had a couple towns that said you needed to do power washing, you had to stay in the room. And then Todd is also, who was a rep that applies the material, was doing some repair work in law. So I talked to Kristen Bangor, there, we hadn't completed that before tonight's meeting. But they were going in and cutting out a section, I wanted to see how easy it was, because they were saying it's pretty easy to go back in. If you had like a water line put in with a break, and you had to cut out a 3-foot, 2-foot area, you know how easy it was to match it and then reinstall. Like I said, this can be done at night, the XD, I'm not trying to sell that product, but I'm just kind of giving you the benefits again. That can be done at night, it can be driven on within 10 minutes after they finish, they can probably complete it quicker. If we do the painting, it's daytime pretty much, we can do it at night too, in more dry, but
It will take longer.
it would take longer at night to dry, you know, you can get it in the summer or whatever, but.
Did you say something about like the white part, because that's the first part they hit, it might wear, and sometimes they actually put a black piece in front of that, so
Right.
that's the
You
first
did-
thing?
yeah.
Does that include that, like, a little bit of that?
Roughly, I
The black would be another fee.
Yeah,
I think it would, that's what.
Yeah, anything that you
That would
want.
bum me out if the white lines are disappearing.
Well, but the white lines, they could also reapply.
One thing about the white lines, public works, I talked to, out of my counterpart at the county, I know the county took over the highway maintenance, part of Tower County now, and they order just the white stripes, and with a torch, like a weed burning kind of torch, or it's a propane thing, we can actually buy that white material, lay it down, you just heat it with a torch, and it just melts right to the existing. So the white, we wouldn't have to call a contractor back in, and I'm even considering, we had, because we wanted to cut it on look right, but if the price came in, we kind of wanted to, we could cut that out of this contract, and we probably could do white in-house. And I think we could buy it for like $5, $5 and then you put probably.
Well,
If we.
you say these are estimates.
These are estimates, we had to put out, we need to put out a bid.
I think, don't y'all think we need to actually put out a bid and see what we get in real numbers? And they know that we're on the fence.
Good thing about that is.
They might give us,
Really know, right?
they might give us a
Include that
really
black
good
part.
price.
I've been working in every chance I get.
Yeah.
We're close, it's a lot of money, we're talking about, but it's a lot of money for a small town, so.
See if they can include that black part with it.
We can.
Let's get that out, and then we can work it on. We need to get it, we need to get it.
Yeah, we have to hurry up,
That's part
too.
of that's part of the speed, whole speed control idea of the speed
Right.
limit. When you asked about, I talked to Marty Fleming, who was the city administrator in law, and he was really sold on the XD
Hey,
product.
what?
And this is kind of like, the ones you saw in the picture, Paul went up and saw, actually, they were, I think, you remember, I think he said they were 6 to 8 years old or something like that. Sounds right. And then, I don't know how true it is, because the salesman's a salesman, but they're saying the product is that better since they were applied. That was like, just like anything else nowadays. I mean, computers change every 6 months, but, this product has come a little bit. And one good thing for the council to know is these guys will be at MML at the conference in Ocean City. So before we even award it, we want it, we'll probably see them and all the towns over there that use them. So you can ask a lot of questions.
And we can grow them there.
You can grill them there, you can say, hey, I'm, Vicky Hummel from Northeast Council, really like to do this, but, we just spread on the fence with the budget. So they'll both be at a booth in Ocean City conference, and also, I'm sure towns up there, they can do the reps, they go through the whole conference and tell them.
Now, if we're gonna send this out, the XD out for bids, they're the only ones that can get one.
They do have other installers, but they just have to travel for it.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Because of, it's a specialized product, I
But
guess.
they know we might do it in-house.
Well,
You can buy the white, and you can buy the XD, you can't, you have to have a factory installer. That's the only way to cover by warranty. The warranty would be void if, we tried to put it in
So
there.
I'd like to throw something else out there too. So looking at these numbers, it seems to be all the research indicates that the XD is a good product, right?
Seems like it, right, from what, you can do what we heard.
The cost to me with this just seems excessive, especially when you look at, the only thing that's actually required are the 2 white lines. So everything else we're talking about here, basically 90,000 in the first one and 60,000 or so in the second proposal, is just fluff for basically the way it looks. All right, so my concern is, why are we gonna do this for 106,000, we can do it for 10,000? I understand it might look a little nicer, but that's a pretty significant increase for that, right? Would we be better off taking those same funds and making capital improvements elsewhere rather than spending them on the crosswalk?
Oh, I think the people driving up and down Chesapeake Avenue would be more inclined to recognize the crosswalk at an intersection. It had the white and the red pattern going all the way around, rather than just what basically would amount to stop bars at those intersections, which is what we have at all the intersections through the town, just the white bars. And they're, well, they don't stop.
You know, it's like right at the Red Cross.
Especially after it's a big.
Well,
I mean, I
Senior
cross that
center.
every day pretty much on the boardwalk. Yeah, stuff, so. I mean, there are ways you can improve just the white bars as well, having perpendicular bars in them as well, using the same material for significantly less cost as well. So that's just,
I respect your opinion.
It's
Disagree, I disagree, but I respect it.
It's a council decision. We
Yeah.
gave all the information we could, and then
Okay.
that's up.
Do we have a consensus to put this out to bid? And then get some actual numbers?
Do we need to also put out the bid, the stamping, so we can get a price on that?
We do.
Oh, I have a price, I mean, on that, if you want to put that out. I couldn't find very many people that do that. 6,000 square foot is kind of,
Well, let's do it.
but we can put it out.
Because like we can put it out and say, okay, we're not moving on the bids, and then that way we can have real numbers to numbers.
Okay. Can you all prepare the bid specs?
Yeah, 'cause I think we're pretty close on the specs on
Both the stamping and the XD, okay? Okay.
if we move the white lines and stuff, right?
And one thing too, this price here, because I know probably we're concerned about price, it is a lot of money, but that's for all 4 crosswalks only. So, you know, if you decide you just want to do Chesapeake.
Oh, it's for the
how
whole-
that would look, but that's 4 corners, each street number, like Second Street, for instance, that's Second Street 2, and then Chesapeake 2. I mean, you wouldn't cut out that many probably, but.
Could have about half.
12.
You all heard of Barnes dance crosswalks? That term new to you? Well, that's something new in crosswalks, where they also do the diagonal.
Right.
So that you don't have to
Shoot across the
do a
road,
right.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's called Barnes, named a guy named Barnes Dance Crosswalk, which would obviously be much more expensive.
Kind of like those,
On the diagonal.
diagonal.
Well, the Pennsylvania said that for decades.
I mean, yeah, if you,
Maybe you could get the price.
what we do is like, we may put out, we say, you know, just to get in the streets they did, and this is kind of just like used as an example, we put both contracts out. They came in, the contractors did all the work, actually, when we measured all the quantities and we got more done, because we got more milling done, than the contract actually called for, you know, in the spec. And we came in $3,000 under when we did actual unit price measure. So we put this contract out the same way, we put it out per square foot. So I can mess it on here, but when we go out and do the job, we measure and then pay per square foot. So we can make that decision after we get prices in, like on how much to do at any time. But what we give them the 6,500 square feet, so they give us a per foot price, and what it helps is, it drops his price, and if you're doing more, he's gonna give you a better price probably. So we can put it out to bid, you know, estimated 6,500 square feet of work to be done, blah, 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 how much per square foot. And
You can
then
decide how much.
you can decide how much at a later date we put out there.
Okay, all right, that's enough discussion. I mean, Donnie, thanks for getting that sod down.
no problem.
I mean, you know,
Looks a lot better.
I don't know about the rest of you, but, you know, people saying to me, what's happening, you know, they don't see anything happening on Chesapeake Avenue.
Right.
Why don't you give us a quick update on why nothing is happening?
Yeah, we're kind of, our hands are kind of tied, and we're waiting on contractors at this point. Rick Mechanics has actually had a real good idea about putting uplighting in the tree wells, not only to see the lights or whatever, but to highlight, you know, the bump outs, so that people do the town would actually see them better, so I think it was really good. He had, unfortunately, a couple of big jobs going on, and he volunteered to do this back in February, but since then he got real busy, so he's kind of been taking more time to get the electric into the tree wells. That's almost completed now. We've got all of them sitting there waiting, ready to get planted. I did meet with the gentleman from Up and Out Landscaping Thursday. We did Tuesday, you're right, I'm sorry. We did a walkthrough, and he has almost everything, but he doesn't have a single stem crepe myrtles. And we got single stem to put in the tree well so you can see better. We didn't want the multi-stem. So he's waiting on one thing, but he told me Tuesday, within 10 days, he'll be ready to plant everything.
But they will be tall enough so people can see around them, correct?
Me and Stacy talked about it today, we're gonna actually have Central Submittal on his plant list and check it out, and then before he plants, we want to go, take a picture and.
You have to be able to see under.
Yeah, see, that's what they were designed for. Green Street did that, they put everything in there for focus, so, we relied on them kind of, because we know the plant names, I can't even pronounce half the plant names when they list them as their official name. But, and also, I thought, because they were out on the epoxy the other day, and I asked Green Street maybe about, I was gonna talk to Mary Council, maybe get them into, before we pay this guy, to make sure he did plant the right thing. Just do a quick walkthrough, 2-hour consulting fee, maybe take that. But that's where we are on we need the electric.
Is Rick, do we have a date on F&F?
We have 10 days from Tuesday. Does
Rick know that?
I told Rick that yesterday. Made him aware. I told him actually they're going to be starting Monday, so I
He
gave
has
him.
3 wells that he's got to
Right.
run the conduits to.
Exactly. Correct.
3.
Right.
2 across from the Callis Park and 1 next to the Dairy Queen.
And actually, I told Rick they were going to start that on Tuesday, so I guess it's a 3-day window. So and then we have the light poles at the shop, which is one of the other things. Poles are at the shop. He's a contractor on that also. That should be pretty simple. And we did get an email stating that the heads for the lights possibly could be in the week of June 19th. So that means the lights could be completed by then. Stacy got an email today from the gentleman about the banner brackets. So that's a simple one, a little pricey, but we need to make a decision on that, I guess.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, they were kind of pricey, but we're pretty much just waiting on, we do have to add a little bit more to the flower that First Street sign, which will be Monday, and get that ready for plans. Callis Park's coming on good, we did the side today, as you said. Bay Metals was supposed to move that pavilion for us. They told me 2 months ago, yeah, we can do it, we can get the slab ready. Let me know, we got the slab ready, called them, oh, we can't do it. So I made 2 calls today, one to Dunkirk Supply to their crane, and also Southern Maryland Crane Service to, and we're gonna sit in the senior center parking lot, so I think we're gonna go ahead with that sidewalk and complete that, and not wait on anything else. Be able to pick that pavilion up and move to the new slab from the senior center parking lot.
Suggestion, the encumbered grant has a crane coming down to take the boats off next week. We will be in conjunction with them.
If it's big enough. You know who you're getting to do it? You know?
I'm meeting with them tomorrow
Okay.
at 11 o'clock. I will ask.
Let me know, because I'm trying to get it done Monday, Tuesday, but I can wait until it's done.
They're coming Monday to take the boats off.
Oh, okay, that'd be great.
I'm meeting with them at 11 o'clock tomorrow. I will ask.
Right, for sure. They might be using Dunkirk, because I would think they're using our locals.
I will find out tomorrow meeting with them at 11 o'clock.
Thank you, Don,
Yep.
for that update. All right, do I have a motion then to
Yeah, I'm
close the work session and go to a session, to executive session, to seek legal advice on the acquisition of real property?
I'll make that motion in a minute, but I want to throw out a couple of things into the work session. We need people to have on our radar. I've gotten in the last couple of weeks, a couple of complaints about drones that in residential neighborhoods coming back from the waterfront, overflowing houses and yards and whatnot, kind of hovering around. Yeah, we're still in there, yeah. So again, I don't know, I'll refer to my legal counsel about whether there can be any legislation for us about that, but it's something we need to start thinking about maybe if there is.
The sheriff, you told them to call the sheriff's department. The sheriff's department has a policy now, and what it's already.
Okay, I'll tell them that, okay, well, depends what Attorney Morris says. And God, I hate to bring this up because I was one of the ones that put a stake in his heart. We may need to relook at parking because we're now getting some VRBOs that don't have any off-street parking. There's one on the boardwalk and one on Second Street specifically. San Francisco completed, at our request, their paper ballot for the speed bump installation of our portion of Second Street. They got maybe about a 10% more participation rates, and we're going from like 40 to 45. But the results were about the same. It was 5 against and 40 for 40 in favor. So, you know, I'd say let's do it. I mean, we've asked them, they've done the thing twice, and the results have been.
They've done the best they can do.
Yeah, I mean, if people don't want to, you know, we'll hear about it once they're in. So anyway, I will move that we go into executive session at this point. The Maritime Ethical League closed session pursuant to the annotated code of Maryland and General Provision Article, Section 3-305. Is this new, by the way, to consider the acquisition of real property for public purpose and the matters directly related to that acquisition.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you all for attending the work
Is that
session.
a new requirement?